Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our weekly press conference. In today's conference, we'll be presenting the next steps on several collaborative initiatives to reduce crime here in the city of Erie. First, you'll hear about Unified Erie and the Group Violence Reduction Strategy. Second is the community-based crime reduction grant that we received. Third is the announcement of a JAG grant to the Erie Police Department for a civilian intel analyst. And finally today, we'll encourage all Erie residents to please complete the 2020 census. It's essential for us to receive federal grant money like what we're going to describe today for everyone to complete the census. As you know, an important part of our 5-point vision for Erie is to create welcoming, vibrant neighborhoods for all city residents. And we currently are in the middle of National Gang Prevention Violence Week. So, an appropriate focus for today's press conference is public safety and crime reduction strategies. We want to recognize the collaborative effort of today's presenters and many others across our community. The commitment they have shown have been inspiring to all of us. One of my goals as mayor of Erie is that we go through any entire year at some point with no zero homicides. I know my team, especially our police officers, are committed to working towards that goal. Today, we want to share with you some of the initiatives we're working on to end crime and violence in Erie. First, let's focus on Unified Erie. Unified Erie is a violence reduction initiative that uses data to drive decisions and work towards evidence-based solutions. It's a partnership of service providers, faith leaders, Mercyhurst Civic Institute, the District Attorney's Office, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the Erie Police Department, GCAC, Erie Together, and the City of Erie. That's a great group, isn't it? It's a very powerful team. Since our inception, Unified Erie has been very successful in reducing gang violence. When I was a banker, I served as a mentor as part of the Erie Together at the Erie City Mission. Now, as mayor, I'm honored to take part in the Unified Erie activities. It's wonderful to see young people on the verge of a life of crime have the opportunity to make a better life for themselves. Several of Unified Erie's partners are with us today to share an update and what the next steps are. First, I'd like to invite Amy Eisert, Director of Mercyhurst University Civic Institute, to explain Unified Erie and provide some insight into the three prongs of that.
Good morning, and thank you, Mayor Schember, for the opportunity to provide the update this morning. As Mayor Schember indicated, Unified Erie is a violence reduction initiative that began back in 2010, spearheaded by our law enforcement partners through the U.S. Attorney's Office, the District Attorney's Office, as well as the Erie Police Department, where they identified that the violence that was happening within our community needed to take a more holistic approach beyond that of just law enforcement. And so they embarked upon partnerships with those who were engaging in the prevention and reentry efforts, thus the three prongs of Unified Erie: prevention, enforcement, and reentry. Prevention involves that long-term strategic planning to increase the supports and resources for youth, families, and our neighborhoods, addressing the underlying drivers of crime within our communities. Enforcement involves addressing issues that cannot be prevented by utilizing smart policing practices, incorporating data, and targeted enforcement efforts. Finally, with reentry, we know that incarceration does not solve our problem of crime or violence, because we know that 95% of individuals who are incarcerated will return to our community. And if they are not provided the necessary supports, 58% of those individuals will commit a new offense, and 42% of those individuals will be reincarcerated within 3 years of their release. Therefore, it is critical that we are providing resources to those individuals returning to the community after incarceration to ensure that they journey down a path that leads to productive citizenship. While oftentimes operating behind the scene, Unified Erie partners just continue to be focused on doing the work. Reviewing the data and modifying the strategies, because we know that crime and violence within our community is not stagnant. It changes over time. We need to continue to revisit that information, the data, and make the modifications necessary. As Mayor Schember indicated, 2020 has not been without its unique challenges, and that includes an increase in violent crime. So we all need to be doing our parts effectively to address within our own youth, our families, and our neighborhoods what we can be doing to eliminate and reduce the crime and violence within our community. Here today to provide specific updates on the branches, we have Jacqueline Spry, who is the Community Action Plan Coordinator and operates the Prevention Branch. We have District Attorney Jack Denieri, who's going to be giving an update on the enforcement efforts. And we also have, I have the privilege of introducing Helen Carter Snell, who is the new Program Director for the Erie County Services and Support, Reentry Services and Support Alliance, and she'll give an update on the reentry program. Jackie?
Thank you, Amy, and good morning. Prevention is critical in reducing violence in Erie County. Unified Erie's prevention efforts include long-term strategies that break cycles and patterns, leading our youth toward problem behaviors such as violence, drug and alcohol, bullying, school dropout, teen pregnancy, and anxiety and depression. Now, more than ever, our young people need our attention and guidance. Due to the current pandemic and its impact on our community, Unified Erie is dedicated, focused, and committed to improving the well-being of Erie County's youth and families. Unified Erie's prevention efforts are driven by local data that identify the most prevalent risks for youth and families that include 1, family management problems, otherwise referred to as limit setting and discipline. 2, history of antisocial behavior. These are generational patterns found in families. And 3, low perceived risk of drug use. These are children or kids or youth that perceive drugs as not harmful. Erie County is very resource rich, and it aims to assist and improve the lives of young youth and families. However, increasing awareness and utilization of the already existing services remains a challenge. In the past, we've created a directory of proven and effective evidence-based programs available in Erie County. Currently, we are working with many nonprofits to promote their utilization and awareness among county systems, other nonprofit agencies, the private sector, and the general public. While increasing the outreach of these programs, we are following trauma-informed approaches to decrease the stigma and anxiety that so often creates a barrier between families and their ability to access services. The frontline workers, the ones that are working directly with the youth, are the most instrumental in these prevention efforts. With their successes, delinquent behavior decreases, justice system involvement decreases, and the likelihood of youth becoming involved in serious violent offending also decreases. This in turn reduces the burden of crime and violence on society and saves our taxpayers millions of dollars. Oftentimes, the frontline workers do not get the recognition they deserve. Therefore, Unified Erie Prevention Prong established an event, the only one of its kind, to acknowledge and honor their impact on youth and families, known as the Youth Work Awards. This will mark our 7th year, and we are transforming this year's event into a Youth Impact Celebration, a week-long virtual event to celebrate the individuals working to transform the lives of our young people. It's tentatively scheduled for the first week in November, and more information will be posted on the unifiederie.org website shortly. Now we'll hear from District Attorney Jack Denieri on the enforcement efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Mr. Mayor, about 6 months now, 6 months ago, so much came to a halt in our community, the nation, and the world due to COVID. But over the last 6 months, two things never stopped occurring, and that is violence in our community, gunshots, arrests, and the response to that, which comes from our law enforcement in our community, to keep the community safe, to protect those individuals from continued gun violence. So while the rest of us perhaps got to work from home, two groups never stopped working, never stopped doing what they do. The individuals out there who continue to commit crime and use guns doing so, and the police who are called on to protect the rest of us from those individuals. And so, speaking on behalf of the enforcement prong of Unified Erie, our work has never stopped. Our work only continues. And probably a bit of bad news for this community, despite, as the mayor said, the successes that Unified Erie has had since its inception and since our first call-in in April of 2017, 3.5 years ago, is that in this year we have seen an uptick in violence. We have seen an uptick in gunshots fired and people injured. And we know it's directly related to the number of guns that are out there on the street and the people who are ever so willing to use them against the rest of us law-abiding citizens. So our work in the enforcement prong shall continue as it has, and that is with the help of Amy Eisert and Mercyhurst Civic Institute to use data to basically come up with a spider web of individuals who are connected to each other via gangs or associations, groups, whatever you want to call them. They're up to no good. And we know who those individuals are by virtue of arrest, not through any other system of, as the streets like to call it, some type of snitch mechanism. That's not how these people make the list. They make the list because time and time again, they are associated either directly or indirectly with individuals in the community who are stopped with guns, who are arrested for violent offenses, and so on. So from that list that gets created by Amy and her team, and with the help of law enforcement and individuals who know those individuals from the street, we create what we know is a list of offenders or potential offenders or past offenders who continue their criminal ways. And then rather than just simply send the officers out in their cars on any given night to patrol, they do that, but they now have a list of individuals that they know are out there continuing to do what they did before. And so that work must continue on our behalf to bring those people to justice, to arrest them if they're violating the laws. And then, of course, as part of Unified Erie, if they like to change their ways, we offer that ability or that mechanism to do so. And Helen will talk about reentry, which I've always said since the inception of Unified Erie that the reentry prong is probably the most important in terms of what our future will look like and for people to feel safe. But from a law enforcement perspective, we'll continue our gun working group initiative, which is individuals spearheaded by the Erie Police, but individuals from agencies, law enforcement agencies across the county meeting regularly to basically discuss what the next action plan is against those individuals who continue to use and distribute guns in the community. And so that work shall continue, utilizing social media, incident reports, the officer's own ability to identify those chronic violent offenders in our community and act upon it. Another part of the gun problem that we have, and then we've seen increase in this as well, as straw purchasers. So the individual who has perhaps a girlfriend or an associate who would have no problem obtaining a gun, that individual sends that person, the criminal individual sends that person, the girlfriend or the associate, into the gun store to purchase the gun, and then of course it gets turned over to the person who wants to use it to commit a crime. So straw purchasing is a continuing problem, and we've seen an uptick in that. And again, the gun working group will combat that with the intel that we have. Finally, one of the parts of the enforcement which we knew proved beneficial was the call-in, where a number of individuals in the community, the police chief, the mayor, myself, the federal prosecutor, but most importantly, the helps individuals, professionals, lay professionals from the community, looking at these individuals, these invitees in the front pews of a church during the call-in, and giving them the message, law enforcement giving them the message that we know who you are and you have to stop what you're doing or else you'll see us, you'll see law enforcement at the end of your road. However, if you want to take a different fork, there's people behind us, behind law enforcement, that are willing to help you. From probation, ministry, professionals, individuals who are there to provide the help. And as I said, Helen will talk about that. But the call-in we knew was effective because what it did was, even for those individuals that did not necessarily want to instantly that night change the direction of their lives, moving away from criminality and into law-abiding citizenry, those individuals nevertheless went back to their community, back to their gangs, and they said, they repeated what our message was that night. And we also had provided a scrolling list of individuals who had made the list through the police incident reports. And so picture those individuals in the church going back to their groups and saying, I saw your name on the list, I saw your name on the list, they know what you're doing. I saw pictures of you leaning into a car. I saw pictures of you hanging out on the corner with other individuals. That has a big impact, we knew, and did have a big impact on the community in terms of deterrence, and hence our numbers went down. But unfortunately, do not think that COVID was lost on individuals who don't care about the safety of our community. Those individuals knew that police were less likely to go hands-on with individuals due to COVID, that there were perhaps less patrols in certain areas, and those individuals took advantage of that opportunity. And so as a result, we have a significant uptick in terms of gunshots fired so far this year. And I guess the positive side, as the chief had noted in an email, 47 guns were seized in the month of August alone. And I can tell you from the gun working group and the numbers that we had produced last year, that number of 47, in 1 month is astonishing. It's good work on the police department's part, but it is disturbing nevertheless. So although we have had and we will continue to look for success in the enforcement prong of Unified Erie, we do, and this is an example of never rest on your laurels, because the moment you do, or in this case, not so much resting, but being incapacitated by COVID, the streets have risen up again in an unhealthy way. There's the reformation of certain gangs in the community. We're aware of that. So we have a lot of work to do yet once again, but we're confident that we'll be able to do that. So thank you very much. And next is Helen Carter-Snell, who will talk about the reentry prong of Unified Erie. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Denary. Good morning. My name is Helen Carter-Snell. I am the new program manager of GCAC Reentry Program. GCAC Reentry Program has never closed during the COVID. we are open to the public. We have 5 case managers who are dedicated to the success of our clients. GCAC Reentry Program is a unique program that provides hands-on assistance and walk the clients fully through the process. We are actively working with our clients, either meeting them in the prisons or over the phone, or assessing their needs prior to their release. We are actively working to assist with job placement or training, housing, education, obtaining important documents, health care, transportation, clothing allotments, drug and alcohol treatment, mental health treatment, and obtaining assistance through the County Assistance Office and the Social Security Office. We also work with the family as well to maintain support and prevention. We also have a peer mentoring program for the clients for support and guidance through the YMCA. Due to the success of the GCAC Reentry Program, those clients have completed our program, has 22% of new criminal charges and only 8% of new conviction resulting in incarceration. The GCAC Reentry Program goal is to provide support to ensure our clients' success and to become a productive citizen in our community. Thank you.
Thanks very much to Amy, Jackie, Jack, and Helen. Appreciate all you do. You are a wonderful team. I think that's one of the unique things here. And the way you work together, your commitment, your dedication, and your persistence is very important to the success. I know your work's been difficult, but it's also been very inspirational. This partnership between law enforcement, faith leaders, and service providers is really amazing as we work collaboratively to find and implement solutions. I look forward to continuing on this crime prevention path together by providing our residents with the services they need to turn from a life of crime to a life of hope, productivity, and family. I firmly believe in Unified Erie's 3-pronged focus: prevention, enforcement, and reentry. The prevention call-in meetings are a very moving experience, and they have been for me. The stories told by presenters over the course of an hour are all very moving. They honestly present the adversity they have gone through, several of the preventers, such as time in jail or the loss of a child, and they use that to motivate the youth that may be on the verge of a life of crime to hopefully choose a better life. Then we have dinner with the youth and do everything we can to get them to disengage from violence and choose that better life. I look forward to our next call-in meeting once COVID-19 is back under control. In 2019, the City of Erie applied for a community-based crime reduction grant from the Bureau of Justice Assistance of the U.S. Department of Justice. Previously, the city applied for and received a Byrne grant to implement a community-based crime reduction strategy in the Little Italy neighborhood. This was so successful that we applied for the second grant. In October, we announced the award of $958,434 for a crime reduction project in the Erie's East Side neighborhood. The area that this will impact is Holland to Wayne Street, East 6th to East 26th Street. The zip code is 16503, and the estimated population there is 8,855 residents. The Bureau of Justice Assistance Grants help make American communities safer by strengthening the nation's criminal justice system. The training, technical assistance, and policy development services provided by state and local governments with cutting-edge tools and best practices to reduce violent, drug-related crime, support law enforcement, and combat victimization. The innovations in the community-based crime reduction program enhances the capacity of local communities to effectively reduce violent crime in distressed neighborhoods. The goal is to reduce crime, increase trust, and improve community safety as part of a comprehensive strategy to rebuild and revitalize neighborhoods. The planning and implementation funds will be used to develop and implement a strategic, collaborative, community-oriented plan to reduce crime in this neighborhood. The City of Erie will continue the established law enforcement and crime reduction research and data analysis with our research partner, the Mercyhurst Civic Institute. The Civic Institute has extensive expertise and experience in collaborating with local law enforcement and community-based groups to support data-driven strategies built on promising models. To tell us more about this community engagement grant is Deborah Smith, the director of the City of Erie's Department of Economic and Community Development. Deb will provide an overview of the grant and introduce our new coordinator for the community-based crime reduction grant. Deb.
Thank you, Mayor Schember. Good morning. The initial planning phase will be used to meet with the Eastside's existing network of partners to determine the best method of outreach to recruit additional stakeholders. In-person meetings will be scheduled and invitation letters will be distributed. Engagement of the principal research partner, Mercyhurst Civic Institute, has already been initiated. Mercyhurst Civic Institute will collect data from the census, UCR, surveys, community and stakeholder focus groups, and consult with experienced entities to refine the strategies and budgets and define the Eastside dynamics. Once data is collected and analyzed, Mercyhurst Civic Institute will assess and provide recommendations for revisions. The partners will compare the analysis with the application and revise strategies as needed. Mercyhurst Civic Institute will provide crime data trends in the neighborhood and assist the project team in identifying hotspot areas of crimes in the East Side. Additional data sources and metrics will be refined during the planning process in cooperation with the cross-sector partners. A neighborhood concerns index survey will be completed and analyzed during the planning phase to identify the East Side's unique needs. Survey results will help focus services and collaborations on addressing these needs and be assisted by community-based organizations operating in the neighborhood, including Serve Erie. A multifaceted law enforcement intervention program will be implemented in conjunction with the expanded partnerships. The enforcement strategy will help identify risk factors that lead to problem behaviors and potential promising crime solutions, such as made available through the Bureau of Justice Assistance. Using the communities that care public health model or problem solving during the planning phase, the research partner will analyze data from the Pennsylvania Youth Survey along with other archival data and assesses whether the risk factors of community disorganization and family conflict remain the area's most prevalent youth engaging problem behaviors. During the 12-month planning phase, practitioners will collect and analyze data and resident input, identifying initial hotspots, establish the core structure, modify budgets and work plans based on planning information, and implement an early action project. Data collection and hotspot identification will be ongoing to track trends and establish systems to identify crime drivers. In order to move this project forward, we're happy to announce the hiring of our project coordinator, Lori Pickens. Lori was born and raised in Erie on the city's east side. She's a 2004 graduate of Edinburgh University of Pennsylvania. She has a bachelor's degree in social work, as well as a 2013 graduate from Pittsburgh Theological Seminary with a Master's of Divinity, with a focus on community advancement and community enhancement. Her experience is strongly rooted in working with youth, families, and individuals from a wide range of background settings and social economic status, developing programs in communities that bridge gaps and positive inspire. She's also working with various communities, organizations to provide programs and resources that lead to self-sufficiency and personal advancement and growth for individuals. Prior to relocating back to Erie in 2014, Lori resided in Pittsburgh, where she worked with youth and families in communities such as Homewood, Wilkinsburg, Northside, and the Hill District. Along with her local investment, she has traveled to Vietnam, Ghana, Morocco to work on bridging gaps between entities and communities. Most recently, she traveled to Cambodia and Vietnam to assist an organization in rescuing women and children involved in sex trafficking. Lori has spent years building positive, trustworthy relationships with families, entities in the city, and community leaders. Lori has the ability to execute programs with positive impact while being intentional to develop positive results for the lives of those in our community. Lori's job will be to intervene in the violence happening in Erie's East Side neighborhoods, build the capacity of grassroots neighborhood organizations engaged in violence prevention, ensure that resources reach the residents who most need them. Lori's responsibilities will be to, 1, increase residents' sense of ownership and responsibility through increased participation and development of the neighborhood groups. This will be measured by the number of attendees at the neighborhood group meetings, including immigrant and non-English-speaking residents in survey responses. 2, increase neighborhood partnerships and leadership infrastructure through increased multi-sector representation in the neighborhood groups as measured by the increase in business, religion, school, social service, youth, and law enforcement partners, serve Erie and other mentors. 3, increase neighborhood involvement and accountability through implementation of collaboration, evidence-based planning resulting in a comprehensive neighborhood action plan. 4, increase resident awareness of services and resources through the creation of a community service directory circulated through the neighborhood groups. 5, increase the feelings of safety among residents. This includes immigrants, students, and decrease citizens' fear of crime through awareness and training as measured through a community pre- and post-survey. 6, decrease violence and gun-related offenses as measured by official arrest reports and formal police incidents. 7, increase resident and community police relations as measured by a community pre- and post-survey. I'd like to invite Lori to the podium to say a few words.
Thank you, Deb Smith, and thank you, Mayor Schember, and everyone who is committed to ensuring our community is a safer place for everyone. I am very excited about this new initiative and that is committed to mending our Erie's East Side community. Erie's East Side community neighborhood has experienced years of decline in opportunities for advancement, which has led to a decline in resident well-being, community safety, and housing quality. Increases in crime and residents' feelings of marginalization have resulted in instability, a lack of resident and business investment, and an overall negative perception of this neighborhood. This neighborhood represents a considerable percentage of crimes for only having about 8.8% of the city's total population. Over the past 4 years, the area had an average of 26% of aggravated assaults, 22% of shots fired, 28% of drug offenses, 33% of criminal homicides, 21% of simple assaults, and 22% of robberies that were recorded citywide. This is the narrative we hope to change over the time in our community through a collaborative and intentional effort. The East Side has a very racially and ethnically diverse population. Some blocks on the East Side have up to 73% of a population from various racial categories. The International Institute of Erie estimates that nearly 20,000 immigrants now live in Erie, accounting for about 20% of the city's population. This project considers the diversity and builds in cultural competencies for partners with language services for our ELL population. Key partners and leadership include Deb Smith and Sherry Loringer, the city's Department of Economic and Community Development, Chief Stan Spazzarni, the Erie Police Department, Amy Eister, Director, Mercyhurst University Civic Institute, John Villa, Director of the NRO, Jack Denary, Erie County District Attorney, John DiMatteo, Co-Chair, Erie County Criminal Justice Coalition, Dr. Nick Viglione, Chair, Erie County Policy and Planning Council, John Loomis, Sheriff, Erie County Sheriff's Office, Daryl Craig, Erie Bluecoats, Paul Gamble, City Center Neighborhood Watch, and Serve Erie. Additional partners critical to this project include Unified Erie, the Sisters of St. Joseph Neighborhood Network, Snoop's Neighborhood Watch Group, Eastside Eagles, Multicultural Community Resource Center, International Institute of Erie, and many others. In terms of next steps, we met with key community partners yesterday to discuss the following timeline. Complete planning phase by December so the plan can be submitted by January 2nd, 2021 and approved by spring. Put the community team together. Meet with the neighborhood watch coordinators in target area to get ideas. Identify demographics within the target area. Obtain feedback from various stakeholders. Complete implementation plan between March and April. Use different platforms to engage younger residents and generate discussion. Planned implementation activities include efforts to create and expand a network of neighborhood partnerships for the Eastside Erie neighborhood with assistance from Serve Erie, Snoops, and the Neighborhood Resource Organization. The neighborhood group will partner with neighborhood schools, churches, community centers, social service providers, businesses, youth, Erie Police Department officers, and residents. The expansions of this partnership will be supported with capacity building initiative based on neighborhood needs identified during the planning period. If you work or reside in the target area and are interested in getting involved, please reach out to me, Lori Pickens, at lpickens@erie.pa.us. I look forward to working with everyone on this exciting initiative, as well as building bridges that promote intentional growth in our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that report, Lori and Deb. I do appreciate it. And Lori, welcome to the team. We're glad to have you on board for this very important work. Resident input and involvement are a key focus of this grant, and I look forward to the neighborhood engagement. I also want to thank everyone who worked so hard to win the grant for our East Side. Thanks to Abby Skinner, the City of Erie's grant writer. Thanks to Donna Samuel from the Erie Police Department, and of course, thanks to Deb Smith. In addition to our city staff, I also want to recognize and thank key partners for their commitment and dedication to our community. And to me, that's what's really impressive about all this, how many people are working together on it. Thanks to Amy Eisert, John Villa, John DiMatteo, Dr. Nick Viglione, Sheriff John Loomis, Daryl Craig, who I know as Brother D, Paul Gamble, and District Attorney Jack Denieri. As the Chief Law Enforcement in the county, Mr. Denieri will work diligently to provide the cross-sector support this grant needs in order to succeed. These types of crime reduction projects would not be possible without the ongoing support of Police Chief Dan Spizzarni, his command staff, and all the officers. The city is very fortunate to have leaders who are not only willing, but are enthusiastic to take on new initiatives that help us serve our residents better. These new project grants are very time-consuming, adding behind-the-scenes work outside the scope of the normal day-to-day operations. It's the dedication of the city leadership and staff, particularly in the police department, that make these kind of projects happen. Our police already have a very difficult job. I really appreciate that our officers are willing and ready and willing and able to work on projects like this. In Erie, we have about 1.7 officers per 1,000 residents. That ratio is much lower than the average for communities our size. That average is 2.7 officers per 1,000 residents. That makes it all the more impressive that they take the time to do this additional work to improve safety of residents and to protect and serve. In order to better support these efforts, we also need to build the capacity of our Erie Police Department. Next, I invite Chief Dan Spizzarni to the podium to provide his perspective and make a very important announcement. Chief Spizzarni.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, I want to thank or welcome Helen and Lori to the team. We're glad to have some new eyes and thoughts going forward. It takes a collaborative effort from everybody to get through this, and I think we've got a great team. We've heard that there's been an uptick in violent crime this summer. The shots fired incidents surpassed last year's number already. Last year, we had 134 shots fired reported during the year. This year, we're at 157 already, with 99 days left to go. 47 shots have taken place within the last 2 months, and 14 people have been shot. These are numbers that we can't accept here. We have to fight. And as you heard Jack say, we've seized a record number of guns recently. And it's not a record we want to keep seeing, and we want to see that number go down because we want to see less gun violence out there. Our partnerships with United Erie and the CBCR initiative require that we look at a lot of data to determine strategies. Data comes from intelligence gathering and is critical in order to make good decisions. To that end, we are pleased that the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency, the PCCD, has approved the City of Erie's JAG grant application in the amount of $149,753 to hire a civilian intelligence analyst for 1 year. Upon evaluation of the first year, the grant may be extended to a second year with up to 70% funding. The grant will include needed purchases of specialized equipment, including computers, software, required licenses, certifications, and training. We'll be searching for additional funding to hopefully make this a permanent position. According to the U.S. Bureau of Justice Statistics' October 2019 report on local police departments, over 90% of the police departments serving populations of over 100,000 have crime analyst personnel assigned full-time as of 2016. We need to get to that point. We've talked about this for a while, that we thought an analyst would be a great addition to our department. This grant is going to help us begin and hopefully build on the efforts that these other agencies are putting forward. It's just another piece of the puzzle. It will help us not only in our daily work, because it'll make us proactive in adjusting our reaction to crime, so that we're not just reactive in coming after the fact. By using this data, we hope to be able to provide more proactive type policing and different type of policing, as you hear from the other services that are available. Now, we hope to post the job soon and conduct interviews in October. An ideal candidate will have a bachelor's degree from an accredited 4-year college or university, ideally in intelligence studies, or possibly criminal justice, business, statistics, or related fields. A full background investigation must be passed prior to hire. We're excited about the opportunity and look forward to identifying the right person for the job and putting them to work very quickly. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Chief. You've been a great partner for implementing community-based crime reduction strategies and community policing initiatives. I really appreciate that. Your integrity and your dedication to do what's right in service of our community is really admirable. I look forward to continuing to work with you and the command staff in finding creative ways to protect and serve our residents. I also want to thank Sergeant Pete Mitchell and Deputy Chief Mike Nolan for providing a strong framework and details for this JAG grant application. I'd also like to thank Deputy Chief John Nolan, who's here with us in the back. Hey, John. Sergeant Mitchell conducted some great research on several startup items, such as training, tools, and equipment needed to establish this new capacity, and we really appreciate all that work. Chief, thanks for all you do. I encourage you and your team, keep up the great work. Finally today, to receive priority consideration for all these grants, the area we're focusing on is considered the poverty priority according to census data. The City of Erie had to provide information to demonstrate that the individuals who are intended to benefit from the requested grant reside in high poverty and persistent poverty areas. The term high poverty area means any census tract with a poverty rate of at least 20% as measured by the 2013 to 2017 5-year data series available from the American Community Survey of the Census Bureau. To give you a sense of how much federal funding is available for initiatives like this, here are a few statistics pulled off the census.gov website. Total allocations available. For state and community highway safety grant programs, the Department of Transportation has about $142 million available. For crime victim assistance, the Department of Justice has just under $2 billion, that's billion with a B, available. The Community Development Block grants and entitlement grants from HUD are just under $1.8 billion. For the next 10 years, the federal government will rely on the 2020 census data to distribute $1.5 trillion in annual spending across 316 federal programs. That funding shapes many different aspects of every community. An accurate census count is very important for access to federal funds. It will impact the funding we receive. And just listen to this list of projects and how many there are, and they affect just about everybody in the city of Erie. Medicare, Medicaid, Children's Health Insurance Program, also called CHIP, public health, prevention and treatment of substance abuse, Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, also known as SNAP, pandemic recovery, special education school programs, free and reduced school lunches, classroom technology, Head Start program, homeless shelters, parks and playgrounds, roads, neighborhood blight removal, small business assistance, workforce development, community centers, summer recreation programs, and the last one is community policing programs. And I think from that list, several of them affect each and every one of us. For the 2020 census, it's estimated that Erie County could miss 50,519 people not reporting. If we do, we'll lose over $1 billion in federal funding over the next 10 years. This funding is crucial for our community. Our census numbers impact all the grants we just talked about today. We will not get our fair share of federal tax dollars without a complete census. Please tell anyone you know and encourage anyone you know to take the census. We are just 6 days away from the end of the census tally now. This will impact our federal funding for the next 10 years. Our self-response rate is currently 64.3%. In 2010, the city's self-response rate was 69.7%. As I did last week, I'm again asking Erie residents to help us exceed that and hit at least a self-response rate of 70% this year. To achieve that, we need about 6,000 more city residents to complete the census. All of your personal information is protected. There's nothing to be concerned about. The Census Bureau will not allow the release of any personal data on individuals for at least 72 years. The data is used only for statistical purposes and is compiled with information from other homes to produce statistics which never identify you, your home, or any person living in your home. The census is only 9 questions: name, age, date of birth, sex, race, telephone number, number of people living with you, any additional people staying with you, and whether you live in a house, apartment, or mobile home. To give you even more motivation, we have a contest, thanks to Renee Lamus and my team. To enter, go to censuserie.com. Yes, you can win prizes just for doing your constitutional duty. With only 6 days left, take the 2020 census. To take it, we're making a final push. City of Erie residents who complete the census by September 30th, if you've done it already, all you need to do is enter the contest. You can win from 3 different drawings that we're going to hold on October 1st. The 3 drawings are: first, a $100 Brews and Spirits prize package with 4 $25 gift cards. Those are to Lavery Brewing, Erie Ale Works, Altered State Distillery, and Brew Erie at Union Station. Second, you can win a $250 Italian Eats prize package that includes a $100 gift card at La Billa, a $50 gift card to Ricardo's, and $25 gift cards to each of Steve-O's Pizza, Virgil's Plate, Porky's Pizzeria, and Skipperino's Italian Restaurant. I'm half Italian, I'd love to enter that, but I'm not going to. I've already done the census. Finally, you're entered into a grand prize drawing for $1,000 in cash. If you've already completed the census, just go to censuserie.com and fill it out. If you haven't done it, please get the census done in the next 6 days here. Just go to censuseries.com to complete the census and enter to win by September 30th. This was a long one, but that does conclude today's press conference, and everyone who spoke is now available for interviews. Thanks very much for being here.